Hello and welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today I'm taking a bit of a risk with the puzzle that I've decided to try at least first today. This video may never happen if I can't solve the puzzle. The puzzle on the screen is called Double or Half, and it's by Fresco, which is a new name to me. I don't think we've featured Fresco on the channel before. We've had this puzzle recommended to us once, and I had a quick look at it on Logic Masters Germany, and the rule set just appealed to me. So, as I say, I hope it's a good puzzle, but I don't know really much about it beyond that it's been recommended just the once. And normally, you have to have a puzzle recommended lots of times to feature on the channel. But the reason this rule set sort of intrigued me a little bit is that I solved doublers in Sudoku have become a big thing recently, and this is a situation where every row, column and box contains a cell that has to be doubled in value. And I think on the first of those puzzles I ever solved, I said do not get any ideas about halvers, and this puzzle features both doubles and halvers and a little bit of star battle mixed into it. Now, I am a sucker for star battle, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. It's going to be an intriguing puzzle indeed, and I really hope I can solve. Well, firstly, I hope I can solve it. That's the most important thing. Secondly, I hope it's actually a good puzzle, because that's the second most important thing. And we'll see whether or not Sunday is a good day or not shortly. What do I need to tell you about? Well, I released a bonus video on the channel, 10 o'clock this morning. I frivolously called the video "Just How Clever is Mark Goodliffe?" And that's with good reason. The video is about, well, it's about that question really, but in the context of a crossword puzzle Mark set back in the day. That is a really, really rather remarkable thing. And yeah, I think for some of you, you'll enjoy the video. I've certainly enjoyed reading the comments so far. And I'll try and remember to put a link on the screen. Next, I need to say happy birthday to a couple of people. So I'm going to start off with Jonathan. Jonathan, you've turned 25 today, and I think you're over there in France. And I know this because your girlfriend Ariana wrote to us. Now, Ariana's in Italy at the moment, so I don't think you're together, but she certainly wishes you the most splendid day. She sent me a delightful picture of the two of you, very handsome couple indeed. And Jonathan, I hope your day is full of chocolate cake. And next, a very special young viewer called Joshua. Joshua has turned 8 today, and Joshua's over in Georgia in the United States of America. Georgia is one of my favourite states. It contains Atlanta, which I love as a city, and even more wonderful than that, Augusta, the home of Augusta National Golf Club, which is where they play the Masters each year. Yeah, it's a place redolent with history and for basically all golfers in the world, something of a mecca. So Joshua, I am going to say very happy birthday to you, and also I want to say well done for testing into the advanced program at your school. That is brilliant. I'm sure that watching Cracking the Cryptic videos has helped you a little bit. Well, I hope it's helped you a little bit, and we're delighted that you're able to watch these videos. Your dad Tim told us that you enjoy them, so happy birthday, Joshua, and we are delighted to welcome another young viewer to the, I don't know, what do we call a Cracking the Cryptic audience? I'm not allowed to use crackers. We got into trouble for that. I didn't realise that cracker had a negative connotation in US slang. But anyway, whatever a group of Cracking the Cryptic viewers is called, send your collective nouns into us, and I will judge the best one in the comments. Anyway, next, the 12 Labours of Hercules Sudoku Hunt, which was our November monthly reward over on Patreon. I've got more correct names to read out to you. Very well done to Dr. Nim Batchelor, Lindsay and Aaron Frederick, Jerome Duman, Pamela Skinner, Angela Cooper, and Angela, thank you for your kind words in your email, Eldine Lim, Elias Nodland, Sampath Kumar, Jero, aka Ronco, Greta and Lucas Betts, Alice Bordarier, Now, Alice, I know I've realised I should have read out your name for last month as well, and I don't think I did. I'm so sorry. But thank you for the lovely email you wrote us. It really was, well, it warmed the cockles of my heart anyway. Perfidious Wetman, Nadine and Tobias from Germany, Barry Osborne and Shui Wu. You all sent in the correct entries. Very well done. And of course, next month we have this Sudoku hunt based around snakes and serpents with a bit of Sudoku history in there. It's going to be, I'm looking forward to getting the reactions to that one. It's an absolutely brilliant hunt again. Oh, and just a reminder, some of you may not know this, but over on over on Discord, there is a Patreon chat channel where you can get all sorts of hints. So if you're stuck on any of our Patreon rewards, often the authors of the puzzles hang about in the Patreon chat channel on Discord. And that is very much worth frequenting if you're looking for either just conversation with good Sudoku folk or hints to how to solve the puzzles. That said and done, let me read you the rules for double or half by Fresco. They are as follows. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits cannot repeat in cages and sum to the cage total. Each row, column and box contains a doubler, and each row, column and box contains a halver. For the purposes of cage totals, a digit in a doubled cell counts as twice its face value, and a digit in a half a cell counts as half its face value. Each digit 1 to 9 appears once in a doubler cell and once in a half a cell. And additionally, doubler and halfer cells cannot be a king's move away from other doubler or halver cells, i.e. normal star battle rules apply to the modified cells. So this is fascinating because that means that if we worked out that that cell was, I'm going to have colours, aren't I? Let's say I have blue for a doubler cell. If this cell was a doubler cell, because you couldn't then put a doubler or a halfer cell a king's move away or anywhere close to this, a king's move in chess is obviously one cell in any direction, none of those cells could be doublers or halvers. So there's going to be a sort of a star battle type puzzle going on, as well as a Sudoku battle in order to finish the puzzle correctly. It sounds brilliant. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual, but now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And let's at least try and figure out where we start the puzzle. So there are at least 2 cages I've seen so far that look impossible. So that 8 cage looks impossible. This 33 cage looks impossible. That 8 cage is impossible because you can't put... Well, it's got to contain 4 different digits. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. And that's bigger than 8. So I'm guessing this has to have a halver in it. And that has to have a doubler in it. Because 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 is only 30. Oh, there's another 8 cage here. So that 8 cage is also going to be broken. Okay, so I'm just trying to scan the grid and find other possible. I mean, that cage is possible, I think. There's 2 29 cages. 29 only has 1 fill if it's not affected by doubling or halving. 28 I think only has 2 fills. I'm not seeing much on the low side. 12 is quite low in 4 cells, but not impossible by any means. Okay, this is already feeling slightly tricky then, because I think there's only 3 definite cages where there has been undoubted adulteration. So, let me think about this. So if that was 1, 2, 3 and 4, we have to reduce the... Right, okay, so we'd halve the 4 to get to 8. And there's no way it can be anything else, actually, is there? If I include any other number, if I try 1, 2, 3 and 6 in there, it will add up to 9. If I halve the biggest digit, which is the most impact I can get from halving. Okay, well that's good. That's good. I will take that then. So this cage is 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 4, wherever that lives in the cage, is halved. Which means these cells have got to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the 29 cage still looks absolutely like it could be a natural cage. Oh, here's a point though. Right, because I know one of those 4 cells is a halver, how could that cell be a doubler? Well, it can't be a doubler because it will be a king's move away from a halver, and that's not allowed. In fact, this is a far simpler point. Each box contains a doubler and a halver. So how could you ever put the doubler or the halver in the centre of any of these boxes, now I come to think about it? You can't, because when you put, if that was a doubler, where do you put the halver? Now, you can't put it anywhere, and that's going to break the rules of the puzzle. So every single central cell in this puzzle is natural, I suppose. That's quite a good way of describing it. I will use green as a natural colour. Now, oh, right, I see, right, I'm starting to get my head around this. So 33, we know this cage contains a doubler, and therefore, how could that cell be a halver or a doubler? It couldn't be, because it would be a king's move away from whatever adulteration takes place in the 33 cage, so that's got to be green. Now, we will argue about, so these 2 are natural, but that doesn't stop this being a naughty cell, does it, or that one? We've got this 8 cage as well, but, oh, hang on, I've made a mistake here. I think I've made a mistake. What's going on? I thought I worked out here that the only way an 8 cage could exist in this puzzle was if I did 1, 2, 3, 4 and halved the 4. So how can that be true? I can't repeat a digit in that cage. Hang on, what have I missed here? 1, 2... There is no way to do it. If I increase any of the numbers in 1, 2, 3 and 4, I can't halve anything and get to the right number. I'm not understanding this. Hang on, I'm going to check the rules again. Sorry, I think I've just missed something here. Each row, column and box contains a doubler. Each row, column and box contains a halver. For the purposes of cage totals. Oh, you know what I've done? Rather ineptly, in my brain, I think I've assumed that I can only have one doubler or halver in a cage. Oh, okay. So, well, right. So I now think I see how this 8 cage can exist, but I'm also thinking that the 33 cage, I don't think anything I've said is incorrect, but I was assuming it had one doubler in it, but actually it might be able to have 2 doublers in it. Because there's nothing in the rules that says you can't repeat a doubler in a cage, or a halver in a cage. So let's come back to this. This is good. So my 8 cage logic was actually correct. Because of course you couldn't put a second halver in this box. There is only one halver in the box, so I can't have 2 halvers in that 8 cage. But can I have 2 halvers in that 8 cage? Well, yes I can, providing that they are far enough apart that they aren't a king's move apart. So I think we're actually able to state now, because we know this contains different digits, And we know it cannot exist with only one halver in it, because the only way of doing that is with 1, 2, 3 and a halved 4. We know there's 2 halvers in here, and if we put either of the halvers there, you couldn't put a second halver in. So those 2 cells are halvers. And we need a colour for halvers, and we will use the colour of orange, because that's very different from blue, which is the colour of doublers. Right, and now we can, we know that nothing can be a king's move away from either of these oranges. So all of those and all of those are now green. Oh, I like this already. I like this already. This is really interesting. Now, if I can halve 2 digits in my 8 cage, does that mean it's easy to make 8 or still quite difficult? If they were a 1-2 pair, these two... Oh, actually, it's not very hard. It's not very hard. Because if that was a 1-2 pair, which is the least it could be, these 2 digits have to sum to 5, which means they're both halved, so they have to sum to 10. So you could do 4 and 6, 3 and 7. I don't know what else is possible, but there's clearly optionality there. Now, so now this cell has to be green, I think, because we know that this can't contain a doubler and a halver, because we couldn't keep it down to a total of 8. So it's got 1 halver in it, and the halver can't be there because there would be a second halver in row 7. So that is green. So one of those cells is orange, which must mean one of these cells is doubled. So I don't know which one, so I'll give it a little grey flash. In column 2, we've got to have another orange, and it's not there, and it's not here. So one of those 2 is orange. Now that's interesting, actually, because again, star battle logic comes into its own here. Could this cell now be a doubler? Well, if that's a doubler, it removes the possibility, because both of these cells are a king's move away from both of these cells. So it would render the puzzle impossible. So both of those cells are green. And now look at row 2, where we've only got 3 gaps left. So the way I often think about star battle, by the way, is in terms of either dominoes or 2x2s. In any 2x2 in a star battle puzzle, you can only have 1 star. And so in this puzzle, you could only have 1 doubler or 1 halver. And that's because if you try, or let's say we make that cell a doubler, where could we put the halver in purple? Well, nowhere, because everything is a king's move away. So it's a very simple way of sort of conceptualizing what's going on in these puzzles. So what I'm thinking here is, it's not quite good enough to work, but it's putting a bit of pressure. For example, if that cell was a doubler or a halver, you'd know immediately those 2 cells have to be a doubler and a halver in row 2, because this would rule out both of those. Right, now the next thought I'm having here is, do I need to keep separate track of my sort of halver logic versus my doubler logic? So at the moment what I'm doing is using green for cells that are neither doublers nor halvers, orange for cells that are either halvers or might be halvers, blue for cells that are either doublers or might be doublers. But for example, this cell is definitely not a halver, so it's either green or a doubler. But I don't know whether that's something I should be trying to record. I don't know, actually. I think I'm struggling all of a sudden. Oh, I thought maybe that 30 cage was going to help me, but it doesn't want to. I was thinking if it needed to have a doubler in it, that would rule out this from being a halver, because it would connect with everything. But that, of course, 30 in 4 cells doesn't have to have a doubler in it. Okay. So can we rule out this 33 cage having 2 doublers in it? Maybe that's a sensible idea. Yes, that would be sensible, because then I'd have a doubler in one of those. I get more greens. So why is this not doubled? If that's double, you can have a repeated doubler, so that would put a doubler down there. It would mean this was not a doubler. Hang on a minute. Oh, no, it's much simpler. It's much simpler than I'm making it. This is not a doubler, because if that's a doubler, where do you put a doubler at all in box 7? There's nowhere for a doubler to go. Look, let me show you. If I make that a doubler, I can't have another doubler in the row, and that can't be a doubler because it would be a king's move away from a bad cell. So there's now nowhere in that box to put a blue cell. So that cell is green, which means that cell is doubled. It doesn't tell us whether this is doubled or not. But look. Now this cell is 2. Well, let's just ring the doubler with the green. Also, in this row, I've got my halver and my doubler. So all of those have to be sorted out. So what's going on now in terms of the world? I'm sure this does something. We just have to work out what it is. So I now know, right, so one of these digits is the halver. And we know the halver in the 8 cage is the digit 4, don't we? So those can't be 4s. There's a 4 in one of these cells. Right, okay, so by sudoku, if we do sudoku on the halver digits, the halver in this row is in one of those 2 cells. And therefore this cell cannot be the doubler because it would rule both of those out. So that's interesting, because now we've got dominoage in this box. What do I mean? Oh, this is great. That's a 4. I've got a digit. 22 minutes in, I've got a digit. Right, why have I got a digit? Well, let's think about the nature of those 2 dominoes. And think about what I said before when I did the example. How many doublers and halvers can we put in this domino? Well, the answer is 1. I can't put a doubler and a halver. They'll be too close to each other. But given I've got to put a doubler and a halver in this box, 1 must go in this domino, 1 must go in this domino. So how could this now be a halver? If that's a halver, you can't put anything in this domino, and that would make this box impossible. So that's green, which means this is the 4, and it's the orange digit. Now this is good. This is good, because suddenly this column has become filled. I can greenify the whole thing. I've got my doubler and my halver. Right, I can see something in box 5 now. Let me just stare at this, though, because there may be more to do. Let me think. Come on, brain, think. Maybe it is just this box I've got to think about. No, my brain's not doing anything. It's not giving me anything. Well, I suppose I've got, actually, now removing that 4 pencil mark gives me a 1, 2, 3 triple up there as well. But let's have a look at this box where I've greenified 6 digits. I can only put 1 doubler or halfer in a domino, so that's got to have 1 in it. That's got to be the other one. So this is definitely a doubler or a halfer. Now the weird thing is I don't know which. And one of those is a doubler or a halfer. So this can be ringed by the power of green. These 2 cells can be greened because otherwise they rule out a doubler and a halver from those. Now, has that helped us? The answer is I don't. Well, it has a bit up here, look. In column 4, there must be something up here because there must be a doubler and a halver. So that domino's got something in it, which means that cells becomes green. And now I've got 2 dominoes in box 1. This is amazing. This is a brilliant puzzle. I've got 2 dominoes in box 1 now. So I'm going to bluify all of those, give them grey flashes. I don't know how it works, but there's going to be one there, one there. So those both become green. And that means that cell is the only place left for a blue in this box, which means that is not blue. It means those 2 are not blue. That's good. That's good, because now we know that these are the blue and the orange in box 1, which means that cell becomes green. This cell becomes green. It's got blue and orange in its column. So that's a natural 24 cage. There must be a blue in one of these cells. Which is presumably important in some way, but I can't see how that works. There's got to be a blue, look, in one of those cells. So that means that can't be a blue, but we already knew that. Or that can't be a halver, sorry. Okay. Okay, now I'm struggling a bit. Sorry, I'm not seeing anything good here. That cell's green, because I can put one doubler or a halver in there. So there must be a doubler or a halver in that string of digits. And if there was a doubler or a halver here, that would be impossible to do. So that's green. It's not quite good enough, is it? It's not quite going to do it. So the halver in row 5, though, is either there or there. Oh, that's lovely. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I'm going to claim anyway. I'm going to have to just think about this to check that my first instinct is true. But I'm going to claim that can't be a halver. And that's because if that's a halver, it rules doublers out of these 2 cells. So these 2 would then be green. But how can this add up to 29 now? There's only one way to make 4 different digits add up to 29 in Sudoku, and that's with 5, 7, 8, and 9. Now, if I'm going to have to include a halved digit in the total, it's not going to work. I mean, the highest you could ever put into the green cells would be 9, 8, and 7, and you could then put halved 6 in there, but that only gets you to 27. So it doesn't work. And that's lovely, actually. Because that means if this can't be orange and it can't be blue, that's green and that is orange, which means that isn't green, which means that is blue, which means this up here is now orange, this up here is now blue, that digit is too close to that one to be worthy of being anything, so blue is over here. Now if blue's over there, so blue is doubled in my 29 cage, and orange in this box now has to live in one of those 2 cells. In a 28 cage, I don't think that's going to work unless there's a doubler in the 28 cage. Well, let's think about it. Maybe I can do this more slowly. If there is definitely something in this domino, and there is, both of those are green. Yeah, okay. I think we can do this by maths, but we may not need to. Look at this cell. How could that be blue? How could that be blue? That's a good question. If it's blue, both of those are green, and I'd have to put in this column, we'd only have a domino to put the blue and the orange digit in. So that cell is now green, and that means, look at this row. I've got to put a blue and an orange into it. Well, that cannot be blue, so that must be orange, which means that must be green. That must be blue. That now is not blue, so that's green. That's blue. Blue is in one of these two cells, so that means orange definitely isn't. I don't know, so I need to do that. Now, does that mean that's orange? It does. So that's green. That's now not able to be orange. This is now orange. That's now green, because it's too close to orange to be anything. Oh, where does orange go in this column? It goes there. That means that cell is now green, which means that cell is now blue, which means that cell is now orange, and that cell is now blue. This top bit's all done, isn't it? I've done it. I didn't realise I'd done it, but I have done it. So I've done everything apart from these blues at the bottom. How strange is that? I mean, it could still be two blues in this 33 cage. Well, if it is two blues in the 33 cage, this is a natural 29 cage. It would have to be 5, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, that one is not natural. That's got a doubler and a halver in it. Okay. So what on earth do we do now? Do we find what's the biggest cage that's got one halver in it? Well, that one's got two halvers in it. Oh, that's strange. That's a funny thought. I was thinking in my head. I know most people think in their heads. It's not. Is it universally true for a human being? Well, that is debatable. But yeah, I was thinking in my head about parity here, actually. Because it's very easy to see how this could be a half digit if it's a 2, 4, 6 or 8. But if it's an odd digit, then it gives rise to a value that includes a half. And that would mean that would have to be an odd digit. I suppose that's going to be okay. In fact, that's not a stupid thought at all. That is not a stupid thought. Where do the odd digits go in the halvers? All we have to include, you can't make that cell an odd digit because you can't correct for it with the doubler. So if that was an odd digit, let's say it was a 5, its value for the purposes of the cage would be 2.5. And it doesn't matter what you do with this, it's going to have an integer value. So you can't make it work. So yeah, this is beautiful. That's a beautiful idea, Fresco. So I can now say, I think with certainty, which orange cells are the odd digits. It can't be this one. That's a lone orange in its cage. It can't be this one. It can't be this one. And it's not that one. So it's these. There are 5 odd digits. So those are the 5 odd digits. That one is uncaged, and these two are going to offset each other with their halviness, or are going to be adding up 2 halved numbers to make a whole number and get to the integer total of either 22 or 8. I love that. So these are even, is what we're actually saying. So those are 2, 6 and 8 because they can't be 4. And that tells me that cell is not an 8. Weirdly. I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't necessarily have been an 8, but it can't be an 8. Because if it was an 8, you couldn't put an 8 in any of those 3 cells. That one by sudoku, that one by sudoku, and that one by cage. You would have to repeat the 8 in the cage. And even though they'd have different values, you can't repeat numbers in cages. So that wouldn't be right. This is just it's a fascinating puzzle. We're gonna have to look up more alfresco puzzles, I think, because this is just brilliant. It's been made with care and attention and a great deal of panache. Okay, so 25 there. That's quite a... I was going to say that's got to be quite a big doubler, but I suppose it doesn't have to be. If that's 7, 8, 9, well, it could be 9, 8, 6 and doubled 1. So how do we actually make progress here then? Can you put a 9 doubler in this 8 cage? No, it's 9 halver in the 8 cage. If you made 9 and 1 the digits, they would add up to 5, isn't that? Oh no, that would... Right. I don't think you can put a 9 in either of those. Because I think the way I thought those two could add up to 10 was if I put a 1-2 pair in here. And if I put a 1-2 pair in here, 1 is not also available to repeat in the cage and go in the halver cells. So that means we'd need not to include a 1 here. So we'd have to be aiming for more than 10. But the minimum next would be 12 with a 9 and a 3, and you can't make those two squares add up to 2, which is what you'd have to do. 9 and 3 halved gives 9 plus 3 is 12. Halve it, you get 6. You need these two to add up to 2, and that's impossible. So 9 is not in one of those two cells. What about 5? 7 and 3 works, doesn't it, with a 1-2 pair? If we go 5 and 1, that would give us 3. Then these would have to add up. No, that doesn't work. 5 and 1 doesn't work. What about 5 and 3 then? I don't know. I'm not sure 5 works in here. It's very peculiar how it sort of interplays. But if we try that, 5 and 7 clearly doesn't work because these two would have to add up to 1 to 2. They'd both have to be 1. So 5 and 3 is 8, which means we get 4, which means these have to add up to 4. Well, the only way of doing that with two different digits is 1 and 3, and you're repeating the 3. So that doesn't work. 5 and 1 is 6, which means 3, which means these have to add up to 5. But the only way of making a domino add up to 5 is either 1, 4, or 2, 3, and you've taken away the 1 and the... oh, no, hang on, you haven't. 5 and 1, I said. Not 2 and 3. Ah, sorry. So 5, 1 does work. 5, 1, or 5, 1 can work. 5, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, well, that's just useless then. What about 1, 3? Let's try that. That'll probably work. 1, 3 halved to get 2, so these have to add up to... Oh, so it only works one way round. You can't put 1, 5 in here, so you've got to put 2, 4 in. So 2, 4, 1, 3 is one option. 1, 5, 2, 3. 7, 3, 1, 2. Ah! There's lots of possibilities. Bobbins. Oh, no, hang on, let's do that. Look, there's a 30 cage with no adulteration, so we can write in the digits there. Right, and I can see that's interesting for the 19 doubler, because this little cell here sees every single cell of that 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. So that's got to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now... Oh no, actually it's fine for it to be 5, isn't it? 5 doubled is 10, which means those three add up to 9. Using quite low digits is going to be very possible. Wow. Okay, let's find another cage. Oh, the 12 cage has got nothing bad about it, so it must have a 1 and a 2 in it. If you try and do it with 1, 3, 4, 5, for example, you will get 13. And 2, 3, 4, 5 is 14, so that doesn't work either. Oh no, the 29 has a doubler. The 28 has both. Oh, the 26. Can we do the 20? Oh no, the 26 doesn't have to have a 9 in it because it could be 8765. Ah! That would make that a 2. Golly, this is suddenly... Oh, that can't be 1 or 3 by sudoku. So 1 and 3 are in those 4 cells. Where's the weakness here? Where is the weak spot in the puzzle? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to... I'm wondering, can I use this value here to limit the value of that? Probably I can, can't I? We know that that box, there's a secret about sudoku, and the secret is that any complete box of sudoku, any complete row, any complete column, because of the rules of sudoku, it contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. Now those digits add up to 45. Now the problem here is that the values expressed here, let's ignore that. We can ignore the fact that this is doubled or halved actually, because it's not affecting a cage total. But this cell is certainly affecting, it affects the fact that that's 18. So ordinarily what we could do here is say, okay, 23 plus 18 is 41. The whole box adds to 45, so that should be a 4, which it can't be. So the effect of the doubler needs to be sort of taken into account. So to correct this down to the value of 45, what would we do? We just simply have to remove 1 of the value of this, don't we? Yeah, okay. So if we add 23, 41, and make that a 5, that would get us to 46. So this would have to be a 1 to come down. If that's 7, yeah, that's 3, or that's 5, I think is how this is working. I'm just going to double check that. So if that was 41, if that was 50, because this was a 9, the cage adds up to 5 too many, which must be because this is doubled, so that needs to have a 5 in it. So these always differ by 4. That's totally useless. That's actually totally useless. Oh dear. Okay, but it's probably something like that we need to focus on. There's going to be something, an opportunity to... It could even be these 3 columns actually, because I actually know the values of the halvers in there. Whoa, is that... I mean, that's going to be very complicated to work this out. I don't really fancy that. Is it going to be that? What I'm thinking is... Should I get rid of my green actually now? That wasn't what I was thinking, but that's where my brain went. If I get rid of my green, because I was thinking I might want to highlight some of the final 3 column, because in theory at least we know what the total is. We know what the natural total is of 3 complete columns of a sudoku. It's 135. And that's because it's 3 lots of 45. So the digits, if we ignore the blues and the oranges in these cells, the digits would add up to 135. So 135 plus that cell, those yellow cells have a total, ignoring doublers and halvers, of 135 plus this. Now, this is where it's going to be complicated, because we actually can work out the adulterated total of these final columns, can't we, by just adding them up? So we've got 16, 37. I tell you what, if I make a mistake here as well, everything is going to go completely wrong. So I probably need to be a bit careful. 65, 91, 120. Oh, at least it's going into round numbers. 140, 158. So I've got 158 there as the actual adulterated total. So in order to reduce or to correct my 158 to equal 135 plus that square, I would have to increase these. I'd have to add these back, wouldn't I? Because I've only the cage totals have only counted half of those values, and they should have counted a whole of the value to get to my 135 plus purple. So these needed to be, so I need to basically, only half of these have been included, so I need to include a whole batch. So I need to include 2, 6 and 8 is 16. So I've included 8 to this point. I need to include the other 8. So I've now got 158 plus 8. That's 166. So I've got 166, but that's including doublers. So those, whatever the 3 doublers are, have been included in my 166 and shouldn't be, to get me back to my 135 plus purple. 166, so it's 31. 31 is the sum of purple plus the doublers. 31 is interesting because that is more than 30. There is a knowledge bomb for you from Cracking the Cryptic, but that makes me think there's got to be a repeated digit amongst the purplification and bluification on this right hand side. It also makes me think that these are big, because we've got to include, even if I make that a 9, which is the most it could be, the blue cells still would have to add up to 22, so there is a 9 in blue. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, this is actually good. This is good, because so if I make that a 9, these would have to add up to 22 to get us to 31. Now you can't put double 9 in an 18 cage without making the other 3 cells zeros. That won't work. So one of those 2 digits is a 9, I've just worked out. Because we're adding up to at least 22, and 22 in 3 different digits always involves a 9 as one of the sums. So it's either 589 or 679. Now, can we do better than that though? So actually we should think about what the possible values of this cell actually are, because the maximum I could make those add up to is 24. So that has to be at least a 7. So this is 7, 8 or 9. If it's 7, then I need this to be 9, 8, 7. Oh, hang on, this cannot be 7. Oh, right, no, this is more constrained. This, I think it's because I've got 2 of these cells highlighted. I'm not using my brain. There are 3 plain vanilla cells in the 18 cage. So there's a doubler in one of those 2, but the other 3 digits are all natural. So the minimum size of the other 3 digits is 6, which means the maximum doubler I could have in here is a 6. So if I can have a maximum doubler of 6 here, the maximum sum of blues on the right-hand side overall is now 6, 8, 9, which is 23. So that's got to be at least an 8, because we must go towards 31. So these are either adding up. Right, so the doubler down here then, it could be a 6 or it could be a 5. But it can't be less than that. It can't be 4, because then I'd have to have... I'd have to have double 9 here, and I can't repeat digits in blue cells in order to get me up to 22, which is the bare minimum. So if I had 9 here, these 3 add up to 22. If I have 8 here, these add up to 23. So this doubler down here is always 5 or 6 because it can't include a bigger double. This is really clever, actually. This is really clever to set up this sort of structure, and this inequality is really very interesting. So if this is 6, yeah, we could still have 7, 9, couldn't we? So these squares are 7, 8, 9. That one is not 8 because we know that 8 is in one of these cells. So that cell is just 7 or 9. And the question is it 5 or 6 down here? If it's... Well, if it's 6 down here, the world is getting to be a very constrained place. Because the other digits... Well, all sorts of things are firing off. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. I don't want to sneeze. I'd have to cut it out of the video. Because what I'm thinking is, if you've got double 6 as a total in your 18 cage, the other 3 digits have got to be 1, 2, and 3. Because you've got double 6 is 12, and then you need 1, 2, and 3 to get to 18. Now, if that's true, not only... The double 6 here is seeing those two cells, so it's forcing this to be the 6 in this 2, 6, 8 triple. But the fact there's a 2 in here is making this into an 8 and that into a 2. And that into a 2. So this would be 1, 3, 6. Right, that doesn't work. It's complicated, but it doesn't work because those two cells are too high now to make the 16 cage add up. This is actually really lovely. I love this. Now, let me explain. I'm going to do this. I could see it in my head, but I'm going to actually put it in. If we try and make one of these 6, let's just make it this one. It doesn't matter which one it is. Those cells will be a 1, 2, 3 triple. Now, this 6 sees that cell, sees that cell. So in our 2, 6, 8 triple, this is 6. Whoopsie, that's 6. This 1, 2, 3 triple makes this an 8, because it can't be a 2 or a 6 anymore. And this cell becomes a 2, which makes this cell a 2. Now look, we've got 1 and 3 here, and 2. So what's the minimum value of that domino? Well, it would be 4 plus 5, which is 9. Well, this is at least an 8. And 9 plus 8 is already more than 16 before we even count the 2. There's probably a much simpler way, actually, of just demonstrating this is absolutely, utterly broken. It's not even close to being possible. But that's the way I've seen it anyway. It's just not possible to have a 6 down here. And if it's not possible to have a 6 down there, the double digit down here is a 5. And that means, do we know what the 18 cage has in it? We've got to have 3 digits that are natural adding to 8 that don't include a 5, so we do. So this is now it's 1, 3, 4 and 5, with the 5 being the double digit. So the 5 is down here, the other 3 digits are 1, 3 and 4, which is the only way of getting to 8 if you're not allowed to use a 5 using natural digits. That's put no pressure at all on this. Oh, but these 2 are now massively under pressure. Because, this is it. Remember, those 3 digits, the 3 double digits had to add up to at least 22, and now we've got a 5 here. So this has got to be an 8-9 pair, and that can't be an 8. Oh, this is just sensational. So that's 9, that's 8, that's 9. Because remember, the only way I could make these add up to 22 was if I made that a 9 to get us to our 31. So the 9 was the repeated digit. I don't know what that's doing, but it's probably doing something. That cell now is not an 8 by our old friend sudoku, rearing its ugly head. There is a a 9 by Sudoku in one of those two cells I'm seeing, which means there's a 9 in my 26 cage and no 8. So my 26 cage, if I fill it with big digits, what would I get? 9, 7, 6 and 5, which is 27. Right, so that is 9, 7, 6 and 4 then. There's no other way of doing that. Because if we include the 5 in it instead of the 6, for example, then the 4 would have to increase in value. In fact, isn't that exactly the same as the logic I had yesterday? In the liar puzzle by ThoughtByte, I'm sure there was a cage. I think it was a 2x2 cage that added up to 26 that didn't have an 8 in it, and we went through exactly this process. I'm getting bad deja vu. I might be wrong, but I think there was that happened yesterday. Right, there's a 4 in one of those by Sudoku now because we've got our 4s are used up in columns 7 and 8 already by these cages. Right, so, oh, look, if that's got a 6 in it, that cell is a 2 by Sudoku, so these are not 2. And that probably... Does that tell us what's going on in this cage then? So we've got a halved 2 and a doubled 9, so that's 19. So these squares add up to 9. Oh, bah humbug, that's so annoying, isn't it? Well, actually, what are the options for those squares? They are 1, 3 and 5 by Sudoku, so that could be an 8, which would be a... Oh, no. Right, that's not an 8. Because if that's an 8, look, it rules 8 out of both of those cells. So that is not a 1. Does that work? Oh, that's so clever. I love... This is just sensationally good. It works the same for 3. These have to add up to 9. So if I make this a 3, that's a 6. And you can't put 6 in a halver anymore. So that's a 5, I'm going to contend, which makes that a 4 by mathematics. This is now... Whoopsie. Wow. It's a 1-3 pair. Natural 1-3 pair. Oh, okay, but that's doubled. I was thinking, how on earth are we going to get to 29? In fact, it's still very difficult. But it does work. It does work. That's 16. That's 20. So that's a 9 to make it work, which is great. So now neither of those cells is 9. That's a doubler. So that's not 8 either. Or 5, because there's a 5 doubled down here. Can we get rid of our yellow highlighting? I think we can. I think we can now remove our yellow highlighting, remove our purplification here, and use our brains again. Right, come on, brain, work. What's going on? Do we know... Ah, there's a 2 in my 16 cage by Sudoku, because there's got to be a 2 in one of those cells. So there's a 2 in one of those. So I've got 11 in it of natural digits. So I need 5 more. So if that's an 8, there's got to be a 1 here. That seems very unlikely. I can't immediately disprove that though. Oh, hang on. There's an 8 in this cage. Oh, well, that's much simpler. Right, let's do it that way. There's an 8 here, so there's an 8 in one of these 3, just because there can't be 8s here in box 9. So there is an 8 in this 8 cage. Now, if the 8 was natural and not in the halver cell, you'd have 17, and you'd have to make the other 2 digits add up to -1. So the 8 must be in the halver cell. It counts for 4, so you've got 13 for those 2, which means you need these. These are a 1-2 pair. Which means that 1 goes here in box 9, that we can move the 1 from here. So this becomes 3, 4, 5, so we can take 4 out of there and place 4 in the box there. That being an 8, of course, makes that a 6, because we knew that they were a weird triple. And... okay, what's going on now? So this is a halved... well, let's just put these options in, and then we can check the maths works. So 2, 7, 8. Right, 2, 7, 8, all natural digits, so they add up to 17, and half of 3 gives us the 20 that we're looking for. That's not a 2 by Sudoku, or an 8. So that's a 7. This is a 2-8 pair. So that digit, that's a 7 in the corner. No song for you. Those squares are 3, 5, and 6. And again, let's hope the maths works. 3, 5, and 6 is 14 plus 7 is 21, so that's working. And what I haven't done here is to try and keep track. Well, if there's a double 5 here, that's not a 5, which means that's not a 9. If I remember rightly, we worked out these were 4 apart. That's not a 5. Or actually, or a 4 by Sudoku. Don't seem to know much about these. Well, I know they're not 5, 8, or 9. I suppose that's, I could pencil mark them with 6 different digits, but I'm not feeling that. That's not a 9 by Sudoku. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Are we grinding to a halt? Maybe. Right, I've got a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple in row 4. So these digits are a 1, 3, 4 triple, I want to say. And that, right, that, the 1, 2, 3 triple here means that's a 4 out of absolutely nowhere. So I can probably work out this cell now, because it's got to have a binary value in the sense that, well, if that's a doubled 1, that gives us 2. And then that would be a 3. So we'd have 9. That would be a 9. Okay. But if that's a doubled 3, we'd have 6, 7, 11. And that would be a 7. Oh, botheration. How annoying is that? So that means, well, it means we can get 8 here. Okay, that's an 8 by the power of Sudoku. Oh. So that's an 8. 2 is in here. Oh, hang on. 2 and 6 are in here. So can't I just work out this cage is a natural cage? Yeah, okay. I don't quite understand that, but that seems to be true. I can see from this box I've not pencil marked 2s and 6s into it. So there's a 2 and 6 down here somewhere. 8, 2 and 6 add up to 16. So there must be a 7 down here as well to get to 23. So that is a 2, 6, 7 triple. Which means that this is 9. And that is 5. And that means that is not 9. That is 9. It can't be 6 or 7 anymore. So that's not 9. So that digit is the same as that digit now. I'm going to label that up. That seems a sensible thing to keep track of. Because in this 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple, obviously that digit mirrors over there. That's not 7 anymore by the power of 267-age. Five has now come out of oranges, so none of those can now be a 5. Oh, that would have been a much more straightforward way of getting rid of the 5. And I was investigating in one of those cells earlier. So I'm left with... Well, actually, where does the 9 go now? In orange. That's an interesting question, because there seems to be only one answer to that. It's got to go here. So that's counting for 4.5 in its total. So if that's a 1, that's counting for half. Okay, so these would count to 5. Oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. If you put 1 in here, 1 and 9 is 10. Half it's 5. This would need to be an 8-9 pair to get to the other 17 we'd need. And that would repeat the 9 in the cage. So that is not a 1. Right, if that's a 3, then we've got and we need... That doesn't work either, does it? Am I going mad? I'm feeling I'm going mad. But if I've got 6 contributed there, those have to be a 7-9 pair, and that still doesn't work. So that's actually a 7. Oh, is that doing anything really clever? I'm not sure. It might be. But anyway, now I've got 16 here, so that counts for 8. So these two cells add up to 14 without using 9. So they're a 6-8 pair. There we go. That's a bit of a deduction. So that's not a 6 or an 8. That's not a 9. That 7 takes itself out of here. So this is now a 1-3 pair, which add up to 4, which count for 2, which means these two squares add up to 6 without using 1 again. So that's a 2-4 pair. That doesn't seem to be resolved. Oh, no, it is. There's a 2, 6, 7 here. So that's got to be 4. That's got to be 2. So that's got to be 2, and that's got to be 8. Aha. That could be useful. That's not a 2. I've got a 1-3 pair in the row, so that's become a 4 out of nowhere. This has become a 3-5 pair. And presumably then that cell is a 5, 6 or a 7 to complete this triple. And it's not a 6 because of the 6-8 pair at the top. That digit is a 5 by sudoku. Good grief. It's very rare that I welcome sudoku into the puzzle, but I am pleased to do it on that occasion. Alright, so now what do we do? Have I... No, I've very much not... I've done all my halvers in a way, but I haven't done all my doublers. I've thought about this doubler. I haven't thought at all about this doubler. Oh, where does 7 go? In column 3. That can't be a 7. It's got to go here, and that's a green 7. Ah, green 7, so that's a green 7. That's a 6. That's a 9 by the power of sudoku. So this is a 6-8 pair. Now, the greens are not the same as halvers or doublers, are they? So where is it now that I'm putting my doubled 7 is what I'm thinking about. It's not there, it's not there. It could be there, or it could be there. Do I know which of those is true? I don't think I do. I know there's a 7 in here by sudoku. That's in a 19 cage with a 5. Right, so I've got 12 from the 5 and the 7. I need 7 more, including a doubled 1, 2 or 3. So doubled 1 doesn't work, because then I'd need to repeat the 5. Doubled 2 would need a 3 here. So that would become 3, 7. I'm going to see immediately what's wrong with that. 3, 7. And doubled 3 would require 1. Oh, that still works. Oh, but hang on. That seems to mean there's only one place for 2 in the row. Why can't I just see that? Is that really true? Double the 3. We've got 12. We need 7 more. Double the 3. There's a 1 here with the 7. And there would be there'd be nowhere to put 2 in the row. Yeah. Okay. That's a 2. Which means that I don't need a 1 here. I need the 3 to help me get to my total, which means this is a 1, this is a 3, this is a 1, this is a 3. That's not a 1 anymore. So there's a 1 in this triple, because we know the 12 cage needs a 1. That 3 has given me a digit here. That's a 1. So this has become a 2-3 pair. I still haven't learned more about which is the doubled 7 digit. What can we do now? That 2-3 pair means that cell's become So 6, 7 and 8 in this column are in those cells. Now that's interesting, because that definitely can't be an 8, because we've already had a doubled 8. Aha! So that's where the 8 goes, in this column, which means that, that's an 8, that's a 6. So that's not a 6. Let's double click our 8s and see if we can do anything with those. And get rid of 8 from that cell. Oh, 9. Where does 9 go in this box? There's only one place. It's got to go there. So those are not 9 or 7. Oh, this is nice. Right, so 7 in this box is now forced to be in the doubler cell. Aha! And that's become a 5, that's become a 6, this has become a 5, 8. We can work out what the possibilities are for this in a moment. That's not 7, look. That's not 7, so this is 7. This is a 2, 6 pair, which we can do. Aha, we're on the road now. Have we cracked this? Maybe. That 7 means that's a 6. Which means that's a 6. So this has become a 3, 5 pair. 1, 2, 3, 5 in this row. I'm just going to pencil mark it up. Presumably we can work this out because we've got 20 from those two cells. So I need these to add up to 5. And the only way that can work is if they're a 2, 3 pair. And there's a 2 here. So that becomes 2, that becomes 3, that becomes 2 because I need a 2 in my 12 cage. That becomes 2, that becomes 1, 3, 5. So what are those? Oh, there's no 6 in my 12 cage now. So it's a 1, 4, 1, 2, 4, 5 12 cage. These are 1, 4 and 5. That's probably resolved, but I can't immediately see how. Yes, and I wanted to check. Oh, that 2 in the corner is doing work. 2, 3, 3, 5, 5, 8. So now I've got 22 there. So that can't be a doubled digit because it's odd. It's got to be a 7, which means that's a 7, that's a 3. This is undoubled. Oh, we could have got this from knowing this is the 5, of course. We knew that the 5 was the doubled on the right-hand side. So we did it a different way, as is so often the way. That digit now, we're going to be able to work out from the 33 cage, where at the moment, we've got 14 and 11, 25, so that's an 8. Ah! No, it doesn't work. Oh no, it's doubled. Oh, thank goodness for that. I was like, how is the maths not work? But it's doubled. Oh, that's beautiful. And now it does work. Oh, let's just check this. 11. So we get 22 plus 11 is 33. That's gorgeous. Right. Okay. So what do we need now? We're very close to finishing, I think. It's just going to be something like... Oh, well, I suppose one thing we could think about is what's that digit? Or do I now know... maybe I can see it's a 1 or a 3, but probably I know what this is now that I've got this number. So I've got 13. Yeah, so if that's double 3, it's too many. So that's got to be double 1 with a 3, which means that's double 3. That's a 4 by sudoku. So this becomes a 1, 5 pair. That's got to be a 1 or a 5 and can't be a 5. So we get 1 in the corner. Those two squares are 4, well 4, let's put it in, and 5. That doesn't look like it adds up, does it? Oh, it does. Yeah, okay. 6, 4 and 5 is 15, plus the 1 is 16. Good grief. Okay, so at the bottom of the grid we need 6. Oh, I was about to say 6 and 8, but it's 6 and 9. That's a relief, because that's going to figure out my 6 and 8 here. That's going to give me 8, and that's going to be a 1. And I think... Oh no, what have I done wrong there? I've got too many 2s in the grid. Is that... How have I done that? Is that... That looks like a misprint. That should be a 3, shouldn't it? Let me double check. It looks like that's completing the Sudoku parts of the puzzle, and I've just had a slip of the finger for this. Let's check the maths though. So I've got 4 here. 6, it does add up to 19. Yeah, I think that was just a misprint. I'm going to allege that was a misprint. For those of you who want to challenge me on such things, please go back. I will look at it in editing as well. and check whether or not I actually justified this as being... I think what I probably did was justified that as being a 3 and wrote in a 2, because the 2 and the 3 are close on my keyboard and didn't notice it. The disaster would be if I then used that 2 to do anything clever in the column, but I have a feeling I didn't. I don't remember thinking about this digit at all. So I hope that was logical. I find it very hard to believe it wasn't, because it's such an intricate puzzle. And the possibilities of solving that by accident feel remote to me. So I hope it was logical. I will tell you that I enjoyed every second of it. I think that is an absolutely... Well, what a debut as well. Al Fresco. I'm going to go and check out your other puzzles. But that was seriously clever. It's about 8 puzzles in one. I loved the start. I loved the fact that you could do the star battle without sort of resorting to worrying separately about doublers and halvers. And although I said, tongue-in-cheek, please don't get any ideas about halvers, I will say that I'm very glad this puzzle exists. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.